Hello everyone, welcome to this next video in the series for the 2023 WADA Social Science Research Grant Program. This video will look to provide tips and guidance from the chair of WADA's Social Science Research Expert Advisory Group, Rob Donovan. These are things to consider for applicants as they're developing their projects and submissions. So I'll hand over to Rob to go through his presentation.
Thanks, Tony. If we can have the first slide up then. So I'll first of all provide a context for the tips, and we look back and remind you of how applications are assessed. There are essentially three major criteria. The first of these is an alignment with WADA's social science research priorities. The second one is looking at, well, how does this project, what is its potential contribution to clean sport? And the third and crucial one then is that even though you show that you're aligned to WADA's social science research priorities, even if this project suggests that there is a significant potential contribution to clean sport, unless the project has scientific integrity, then it won't be approved. So that third one is crucial, that the proposed research design and methodology must be scientifically rigorous. So all of these are essential to be approved, but without the scientific merit, even if you meet an alignment with the priorities and a potential contribution to clean sport, then it won't be funded. So I guess the following tips are how to make sure that the reviewers can assess the scientific merit of your proposal and that you have taken steps to show the scientific rigor that you are approaching the project with. So a couple of tips here. First one is limit the limit the literature review to the specific research objectives. What happens with a number of people that put in their proposals, there are several pages of the history of doping and the history of doping research and all those sorts of things. You may pass some comment on the history of doping research or some landmark research projects in the field, but essentially stay focused on your specific research objectives. We don't need 2 or 3 pages about all of the various doping research activities that have been undertaken over the years. The second one is, if relevant to your project, provide a theoretical model or a framework and then explicitly show how the framework applies to your project. In these particular cases, a figure or a diagram can be very helpful, showing the relationships, connections between the different concepts in your theoretical model or framework and the outputs and so on. The third one, if you are introducing various concepts and you're looking at susceptibility or inadvertent doping, legitimacy, athlete pathways and so on, that needs to be defined in the context of the proposed study. Many of these overall concepts have different meanings for different people or different definitions, different contexts, etc. and so on. So you must define your particular concepts in the specific context of your study. So if you're going to look at vulnerability, there are many factors that relate to vulnerability. But what are you studying in your specific context? Is it the personality characteristics that make athletes susceptible to doping? Is it a context of recovery from injury that makes athletes more susceptible to doping? Or is it a combination of several factors that you're including in the concept of vulnerability? So whatever it is that you're going to be studying in your particular project, you need to be able to define them specifically in your own context. And then, of course, that the measures that you use to vary those concepts must be related and consistent with what your definitions are. The fourth one is make sure that your research methods are appropriate for the stated research objectives. So methods are going to differ markedly, for example, whether you're doing exploratory research in a particular area, or whether you're looking at determining causality or identifying influencing factors on a particular behaviour or beliefs or whatever. So they will require different methods. The exploratory generally requires more a qualitative approach, whereas if you're looking at causality and determining factors, you're looking at quantitative work and particularly experimental versus control comparisons. So you need to make sure that your research methods are capable of meeting the research objectives. And also what's relevant is that you've got to show that your sample composition, the size of the sample and your recruitment methods and so on are specifically related to those research objectives as well. So where are the athletes or athlete support personnel or other stakeholders that you might be investigating? How are you going to recruit them? Why are you recruiting those particular subgroups of individuals or groups or whatever, and relate that to your research objectives. The last step there is providing specific details, not only for the dissemination of the research findings, but also for translation into actions. In other words, with respect to dissemination, you might list publications that you intend to have, seminars that you will give, or conferences that you will attend for dissemination. But more importantly, and in line with what is now social science research strategy emphasis on translation, is that we need to know how can your findings be built into areas where they can be actioned. So how could you build them into education interventions, perhaps university curricula or ARDO programs? So, and in that particular situation of where you're looking at, well, how can you translate or get your research findings into education or other sorts of interventions? That's where it helps having partners in these areas right from the start in building your research project. So overall, there are the sort of tips to look at when you're doing your final and full submission is that, and I guess the single thing that comes out there is stay focused, make sure you explicitly define any theoretical framework, explicitly define the concepts that you're using, and be able to show specifically how you're going to measure those concepts with the research instruments that you have, that your research methods align with your objectives, and then how you are going to get your research findings implemented into practice. Thank you.